Hi there! Let's help you understand buffers. This video will try to help you understand how to explain the definition of a buffer, suggest a possible buffer system, explain how the addition of a small amount of acid or base reacts with the buffer system, and finally, write a chemical equation representing the reaction of an acid or a base with a buffer system. Let's start with the chemistry. A buffer solution contains chemical species that allow the solution to resist significant pH changes when small amounts of acid or base is added. For example, consider an acetate buffer system that contains acetic acid and the acetate ion. This is a buffer system because it contains a weak acid and its conjugate base. In a solution, if small amounts of hydronium ion are added due to the addition of an acid, the hydronium ion reacts with the conjugate base of the buffer system, or in this case, the acetate ion, in the reaction shown. As a result, there aren't any free-flowing hydronium ions, and the pH of the solution does not change much, if at all. Similarly, if small amounts of hydroxide ion are added due to the addition of a base, the hydroxide ions react with the weak acid of the buffer system, or in this case, the acetic acid, in the reaction shown. As a result, there aren't any free-flowing hydroxide ions, and the pH of the solution does not change much, if at all. Let's look at this through an analogy. Imagine the solution of interest is our classroom, which has a certain pH. Then imagine 2 young green aliens arrived in our classroom. They represent a strong acid, so they immediately dissociate. Imagine this alien is very excited about all the cool things in this classroom, and the classroom is empty. The excited alien immediately starts running around, touching all the glassware, running to look at the fish tank, and knocking over things everywhere. They've suddenly made a huge mess. This mess represents the acidity level of the classroom. Acidity level increases, and the pH of the room changes. This is what happens when acid is added to a solution that does not contain a buffer. The acid produces free H+ ions, also known as the hydronium ion, changing the acidity of the solution. Similarly, if a base is added to a solution that does not contain a buffer, the free hydroxide ion will also rapidly change the acidity of the solution. Now let's consider, what if there is a buffer system? Now imagine that this classroom isn't empty, and in fact, Ms Cheng and Mr Riddle are sitting in the room. The same 2 young aliens arrive in the classroom, and again, one of them is freed and excited about the cool things in this room. Except now, there are 2 people in this room who have specialized interests. Ms Cheng can say, "Hey, do you like plants? Come sit and I'll show you all the cool plants I have." And Mr. Riddle can say, "Hey, do you like sports? Have you seen the latest trade the Blue Jays made?" As a side note, in our make-believe world, aliens can only be interested in 2 things, either plants or sports. If this alien likes sports, they will immediately go towards Mr. Riddle and proceed to chat about sports. If this alien likes plants, they will immediately go towards Ms. Cheng to chat about plants. Either way, this alien is not running around, knocking things down anymore. They don't break anything. The room's acidity does not change, and the pH does not change. This is what happens when an acid or base is added to a solution that has a buffer. Ms Cheng and Mr. Riddle represents a buffer system. Each is capable of handling the two possible things that can change the pH of a solution. If an acid enters the system, it isn't interested in the weak acid of the buffer system, but it will react with the conjugate base. If a base enters the system, it isn't interested in the conjugate base, but it will react with the weak acid of the buffer system. Either way, there aren't any free-flowing hydronium or hydroxide ions in the solution. As a result, the pH of the solution does not change much, if at all. Do you think you've got it? Here are some practice problems so you can do a self-check. Read the question and answer the options on the screen. You may wish to pause this video and play again when you're ready to see the answer. Ready? The answer to this question is option B. The H plus from the acid reacts with the conjugate base of this system, which is the acetate ion shown in option B. Here's another question. Again, you may wish to pause this video until you are ready for the answer. Ready for the answer? The answer to this question is option B. The OH minus ion from the NaOH will react with the acid of the buffer system in this question, which is HF. The system in this question does not contain any acetic acid, which is why option C is incorrect. The correct answer to this question is option B. Here is one last question to check your understanding. This one might take a little bit longer. Ready? A sample answer is displayed on the screen. Your answer may be slightly different, but the underlined components here and the chemical equation are the most important part of this answer. Hopefully, now you're feeling more confident about the concept of buffers. As a refresher, the definition of a buffer system is one where there exists chemical species that allow the solution to resist significant pH changes. Check out the other videos about buffers to understand how to make a buffer and the concept of buffer capacity. Now you're able to explain the definition of a buffer, suggest a possible buffer system, explain how the addition of a small amount of an acid or a base reacts with the buffer, and finally, write a chemical equation representing the reaction of an acid or a base with a buffer. If you like, a handy-dandy summary sheet of what we discussed can be found in the description of this video. You can also check out some other related videos to learn more about buffer chemistry. Thank you so much, and remember, practice makes better.